So the news today to get us started here on Westwood One Sports, George Pickens has signed his franchise tag with the Cowboys. I've thought this entire offseason, like, even though he signs the tag, it is still possible he gets traded here in this offseason. And I know that the Cowboys are saying no. Their plan is to keep George Pickens, have him be in the fold. But, you know, he wants to be one of the highest paid wide receivers in football. And on the franchise tag, he'll get the average of the top 5 at the position. But essentially, I don't know if this relationship's going to work long term.
I don't know if he's going to show up to camp and just do the I'm here, I'm participating, I don't want to get fined, I don't want to lose any money, but I'm here to negotiate a deal, or I'm here to work on a trade, and the Cowboys are just going to honor that trade request, or there hasn't been a trade request made yet. But I don't know if the Cowboys are in a position to pay all of that money to another wide receiver. Now, the Cowboys are in a position here where I think this division for the Cowboys is extremely winnable right now. The Eagles are a team in flux. The Eagles are bringing in another offensive coordinator to work with Jalen Hurts and the rest of the offense. A.J. Brown, by what we assume is going to happen, is no longer going to be an Eagle once we get to June and they're able to trade him and move some of the money around and kind of spread his money around, and they can get a 27 draft pick, which is what they've been eyeing. And I think that that's what's going to happen. And both teams are better than the Commanders and the Giants as currently constructed. So it seems like the best thing for the Cowboys is to get a deal done with George Pickens. I don't know if Jerry Jones has the appetite to make him one of the highest paid wide receivers in the NFL, or just say, listen, you're getting the average of the top 5 wide receivers, play, and this is what the franchise tag is for, and deal with it, and we'll negotiate and continue to negotiate, or this is what it is, and at the end of the year, you can walk, or we'll find a trade partner. Because it seems like right now, George Pickens is doing everything and playing nice and signing the franchise tag, and by all accounts will show up for these offseason training programs. But as of right now, I would say that if my money was on whether or not he plays on the franchise tag, I would bet that he doesn't play on the franchise tag.
Yeah, and so that's the story to get us started. I will say this, with off of the draft responses from the weekend with the Dallas Cowboys, I thought the Cowboys had a great draft. And so if this team can improve at all on defense, last year on defense, 31st in defensive yards per play given up. They were also 22nd in sacks per game, and they were 23rd in rushing yards per game given up last season. So if the Cowboys can improve at all on defense, this is a playoff team, especially with the draft that they just had.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott, if he's healthy, the weapons around Dak, and whether or not George Pickens plays or doesn't play for the Cowboys next season, this should be a playoff team next season. And you're right. They should compete for the division, the NFC East title. That's the way I look at it right now, is that the Cowboys are good enough. And if they stay healthy, which, you can put that disclaimer on every team in football. If the quarterback for your team stays healthy, you have a chance if he's good enough. And the Cowboys with Dak Prescott certainly will be good enough if Dak Prescott plays.
Yeah, they're only plus 215 to win the NFC East. The Eagles are plus 120, so it's not bad. And I think they're, at least if they don't win the NFC East, they're right in the mix for a wild card team. This is a team that, yes, they're bringing in a new defensive coordinator, and they drafted very well defensively. And I think that what they're going to add on defense, and along with, the way that Dak Prescott played, Dak Prescott, if Drake May didn't have a historically good season for, a second-year player, and Matthew Stafford wasn't putting up great numbers, Dak Prescott wasn't far behind in the MVP conversation. Dak Prescott was right there probably third, fourth in the MVP conversation. He was having a great year. He was playing really well. The problem is that defense was bottom of the barrel. He had to play really well in order to keep the Cowboys in any sort of contention in any of these games. Now with the additions that they made on defense in the draft, now all of those have to hit. With the additions that they made on defense in free agency, I think this is a team that can compete. And along with the changes that are going on in the division with the Eagles, I want to compare it to what was going on in the NFC North.
Yeah.
You know, the way that the changes that were happening with the Vikings and all of the changes that went on with the Lions and all the coordinators that they lost that became head coaches, and what the way that the Bears took advantage of that and went from worst to first last year. Now, the Cowboys obviously weren't worst in their division last year and then can go to first this year. That were the Giants and the Commanders with Jaden Daniels being hurt last year. But the Cowboys can take advantage of a situation where the Giants are bringing in a new head coach, and John Harbaugh is a very obviously accomplished head coach. I think they're going to be better. Jaden Daniels, if he can stay healthy, again, like you said, we have to say that for all teams, but with Jaden Daniels, he gets hurt. So he's injury prone. We have to just account for that. So if he doesn't stay healthy, then another situation that they can take advantage of, the Cowboys. And then with all of the moving pieces that the Eagles are going through, now they bring in Jonathan Grenard and extend him. So that's another piece that they're adding to their already great defense that the Eagles have. They're going to move on from A.J. Brown, so that's going to go away. But they draft Mekhi Lemon, so that's another great a piece on their offense that has to hit. But can he, kind of take over for what A.J. Brown is going to leave, because we assume that he's going to be leaving? I think that the Eagles are kind of a team that's always in some form of turmoil from last year. Can they move on from that and kind of come together? That hit piece that was done on Jalen Hurts earlier this year, can he rebound from that? And can this team kind of come together?
Can he rebound from the hit piece?
Well, can this team kind of find a togetherness and get together this offseason and say, hey, guys, not that Nick Sirianni's on the hot seat, but can he get this team together and focus them now that A.J. Brown might be off the team and say, hey, we need to come together. This is a great team. Howie Roseman is the best GM in the NFL. He's put together another great team that has a chance to go out, and they're the favorites to win the NFC East, go out, win the division, make another run at going to a Super Bowl. I don't think they're the favorites in my opinion, in the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. I would still give that to the Rams, but they're right up there, and the Cowboys are right up there too. But that all hinges on having two really good wide receivers in Lamb and Pickens.
Yeah.
So Pickens has to be happy. And the way that he's happy is spending the money. Spend the money, pay the player. And he can be testy. And if you want him to be happy, Jerry Jones likes to pay the toys, the shiny objects, right? I still don't listen. Micah Parsons is as shiny of an object as they get, like one of the best out there, if not the best. But he didn't want to pay him and ended up trading him away. So with George Pickens, you might have to just bite the bullet and pay him.
Yeah, and that's possible. You look at the playoff setup from last year, the divisional winners in the NFC, Seattle, Chicago, Philadelphia, Carolina, the three wildcard teams, the Rams, the 49ers, and the Packers. So how do the Cowboys factor into this? Because if you look at just the wildcard teams alone, I would expect all three of those teams to be really good this upcoming season again, right? So it's through the division, which is straight up competition with Philadelphia. And I do think Dallas and Philadelphia fighting for the division in the NFC East is certainly something to keep your eyes on. I think Washington will factor in. But some of that with Washington, like I said, the big disclaimer for everything is, can their quarterback stay healthy? Can Jaden Daniels stay healthy? If he is, then okay, the Commanders are in that conversation too. You ran through it. I think the Giants will be improved with John Harbaugh. So when you look at the conference for the Dallas Cowboys, can they be a team that sneaks into the wild card? Can they be better than San Francisco or Green Bay or Los Angeles. And that's where it kind of all stacks together. It's a pretty good conference. It's a pretty stacked conference. And the Cowboys are better. And I'm not sure who is pulled out because, obviously the teams who made the playoffs last season, the team that's most likely to miss out of the NFC would be the Carolina Panthers. But that's because they won the division. So somebody from that division will take that spot. So it's not as if the Cowboys need to beat out that spot. That spot will have a team no matter what. It's the other wild card teams and the team in their division, the Eagles.
Yeah, and on The Athletic, Mike Sando wrote a piece where after the draft, he talked to a bunch of executives and team personnel around the league and asked them about each team's in the NFC's draft. And he asked them about the Dallas Cowboys. And, they drafted just the first couple picks of each team. He didn't go through all the depth on each team's draft, but just asked them about the first few picks. And with the Cowboys, it was Caleb Downs and Malachi Lawrence. And one exec said, Caleb Downs, I could not be more impressed with him. Sonny Styles in terms of the presence that they bring to the room and their understanding of football. Downs is going to make a lot of plays. Lawrence has some medical concerns. Malachi Lawrence out of UCF that they drafted. Lawrence has some medical concerns, more preventative than anything. And so they really like Caleb Downs. And I thought that Caleb Downs was a great pick by the Dallas Cowboys that they brought in. The defense was a sore spot, another exec said, and they addressed a lot of pieces. And so people love and execs love what the Dallas Cowboys did.